There's nuances like Kody, like, I made so many sacrifices to love you. Well, first of all, that should be a warning, right? If you have to sacrifice to love somebody, that's not healthy. And this whole framing it around you were a bad sister wife, according to what perspective? Are you really my husband too? If you only see that she was a bad sister wife to one person? Like, if you're really married to both women, you're going to see both sides. Nobody's ever innocent.
This news might actually send Kody to the hospital for a kidney problem. Just hold on tight to your shorts. Because Janelle Brown, Kody's number 2, the one that he always thought that he could woo back, the one that had left him numerous times before and who had returned to him multiple times, has officially moved on. Now, moving on doesn't just mean that you leave and you get your spiritual divorce from your fake church that holds no complete authority over your lives. No, moving on for these women means, in Kody's world, that they have a new relationship. Because if you don't recall, it was Robyn who said that in order for these women to actually be divorced, they had to have relations with another man, and then they will have broken their covenant. Remember that? And so Christine wasn't really going to be divorced from Kody until she had a new man. And now Janelle, apparently. But if you also remember, Janelle and Mary got spiritual releases, of which Kody failed to recognize. So even when they went through the steps, you guys, of getting their spiritual releases from their fake cult church, of their fake marriages, they then still didn't believe it. So here we are, and Janelle announced on her Instagram and said some chapters, being over the moon excited for her and so ecstatic about her happiness and the excitement that she has found love again. I think when we watched the last season, and again, it's so hard for me to actually go off what's on the show because the show is fake and it's all contrived and the situations are set up by production. And they go on to the set and they know exactly what they're going to film. They might not have a script, but they definitely know that this setup is the shot. And so they're going to be careful in their words and what they say and what they share. And so I never really feel like anything on the show is genuine, but I do think sometimes they say things that are genuine. And I know that she had mentioned that the spiritual divorce or not being spiritually divorced was kind of a hang up for her because in their faith, if you are still married spiritually to a man, but not cohabitating with them or in union with them, technically speaking, the women are just supposed to stay single and the men get to go on and continue to be with whoever they want, but the woman has to stay single. So obviously she doesn't believe that anymore. So that's a very good sign. So I'm sure for Janelle, this is a great next step. And I'm glad she's found some happiness. It sounds like she's doing pretty well in North Carolina. Something I did notice about the episodes where she went through the spiritual divorce were her sister was pretty, I just remember a look that her sister gave to her about the divorce and the spiritual divorce, and just, I don't know, this look like she had been worried about her sister, concerned about her, upset because her sister had gotten into this cult and now she was free and she was out. And I'm sure for her sister and her other family members that are still alive that feel like they lost her for years are probably very happy for this. And I'm assuming that Pete is not a polygamist because they clearly live in North Carolina and she doesn't want to live polygamy anymore. So yeah, great job, Janelle, and great shot at independence. It's interesting because as she's been announcing this, Leon Brown has returned to TikTok and has started talking a little bit about their experience growing up in a cult. You have Mykelti over on her Patreon and then going on rounds on podcasts talking about her experience. And one detail that Mykelti revealed had to do with a childhood where she had to have secrets and there was not a lot of freedom to tell people about what was going on in her life. And she divulged that at some point in her childhood, there had been something that happened to her, some sort of unwanted touching, some CSA, and she tried to tell her parents, and she said she got in trouble, which then created a lot of, according to McKelty, backlash with the network about whether or not the powers that be were getting involved and she was going to be under a microscope. And then she subsequently stopped posting on YouTube, and now her Patreon is only on Patreon because apparently that, to her, she seems to think the details about what's happening on her Patreon won't go out. I honestly don't really know. I'm not a member of her Patreon. But once that hit, she was like, I don't know what's going to happen with the show. So it might just be nothing, but it could be something. And then on top of that, you have her Maddie, her daughter, Janelle's daughter, who on the one hand says she doesn't have all the answers and she doesn't know a lot and she's not pretending to know a lot and she's changing her mindset about her parenting. On the other hand, is sort of giving a lot of advice or words of encouragement, I guess, to other people about their childhood and about what works for her and maybe just trying to help other people. But she had made a post back in June. I never really talked about this, but she had said, there are things my children will never be exposed to in our home, and I made that decision long before they were born. I knew at 13 years old that I didn't want the life I was living. I couldn't change my circumstances then, but I could decide with full certainty what I would and wouldn't carry forward. No instability where there should be stability. No fear where there should be safety. No secrets where there should be honesty. No chaos designed as normal. It takes a lot of intention to not repeat patterns. It's not natural. It's something I had to learn, something I had to keep choosing, especially on the hard days. But it ends with me. That part was decided a long time ago, and I've never once looked back on it. Who else out there is breaking patterns for their family? So she's big on, her life is not going to be the chaos that she grew up in, which, I always think Janelle has always stated that a benchmark of her life is that her kids had this great life and they're all great kids and none of them have any problems. And in some respects, I think parents, they choose to see and view their lives in retrospect as though they provided the best that they could. And so perhaps in her eyes, she feels like she provided the best that she could. It sounds like her children, though, have a completely different perspective. And their perspective has been built into a narrative that's been on a show that necessarily doesn't match the reality. Regardless of that, as everyone is finding their own voice, that also means that Janelle has to find hers too. And I find the timing of her announcement interesting because it's August 18th and Sister Wives season 20 was announced on August 21st, which would be this week, within this week. So we're in the same week that Sister Wives season 20 was announced last year. I don't know if that means that there will be an announcement about Sister Wives season 21 this week, and I don't know if there will be an announcement. What I do know is that it would appear that TLC has and is testing the time slot that the Sister Wives has occupied with a show that they debuted in August, just a couple weeks ago, called The Double Lives of Suburban Wives. Without going into a lot of detail, the show is the product of, there was a teacher or a couple teachers in Missouri who were working as teachers, but also dabbling in the world of like OnlyFans and adult content. And their accounts were discovered and they lost their teaching jobs. And then it was revealed that they were sort of in this sort of group of couples where the women were making content that was controversial and that they were leading lives where they were like these devout Christians and mothers and full-time employees, and then at night or whatever, they were making illicit content. Because I don't engage in that kind of conduct, I don't know, or content, I don't know what kind of OnlyFans they're making. You know, OnlyFans can be anything from people showing nothing and just pictures to full on explicit acts. This is a show where it's supposed to be them like balancing their new lives and adult content. None of them are swinging, so it's not like they trade or swap spouses. The men are involved to the extent that they're filming their wives, and then some of them are on the platform with them, and that's about all I know. But I know that the rollout of it has been slightly mixed because some people are concerned because the show has the women grappling with, I'm a Christian and I have all these super conservative trad wife values where I'm a conservative Christian and I'm going to serve my husband, and then I'm doing this stuff at night. And this video is not about that show, so I'm going to just save the details, but the show is a new low in my eyes. We've already seen what has happened when you've tried to portray a family of 4 women claiming to be, it's all a choice, we all love each other, we're choosing this life, to then find out 15 years later when the truth finally comes out, which we already knew was the truth, is that we didn't really want to do this show, or we had to do this show, and this was Kody's show, and Kody was taking most of the money, and Kody and Robyn were taking most of the money, and they've been living this luxurious lifestyle on our backs, and we've been their worker bees for them, and they've been exploiting us. You know, that's my and we knew with Sister Wives that they were promoting a cult. We knew that they were promoting a cult that exploits and subjugates women. And so, and was placing the children in a position where they were also, their privacy was taken from them. Their faces became the face of polygamy, whether they liked it or not. And that choice wasn't that one that they could make. None of the kids were paid. And so now you're going to be exploiting children and tying them to their parents' adult content. And that's just opening a can of worms for the kids at school, where they're going to get bullied and ostracized, or else the wrong kind of people with bad motives are going to think this is great. And then the kids become vulnerable to even further exploitation. With then the other question of what kind of boundaries are around those children, and why are we interlacing them in a show where the content they're making is not for children? Desensitizing. We've seen a lot of desensitizing on TLC, and it's why I just don't try to even promote their shows in any capacity or even talk about them. But in this case, the new series that they've been sort of testing in the time slot of Sister Wives, that ends on the 27th. And then if Sister Wives is going to roll out, it would be in October. So if that's what's happening, and if it does roll out in October, I don't know what they would show unless this soft launch or this hard launch of Janelle with her boyfriend is because they're preparing for a new season, and the new season teaser or trailer is going to show Janelle finding love. Again, I don't really know what is unusual now about the Sister Wives, other than they've all left polygamy and they're trying monogamy. But monogamy, according to TLC, is boring. And none of them live in the same state anymore, or even in the same city. So what's there left to talk about, TLC? And all of your kids hate the show. None of them were paid. All of them have been traumatized. They all have been traumatized by Kody. I just don't know what's left. But TLC will really run this dry as long as possible. It took 25 seasons, I think, for them to finally cut the cord with Little People, Big World. I just hope it isn't 25 seasons of Sister Wives. But that's to say that Janelle appears happy, and I'm excited that she's finding happiness. But on the same token, I'm also hoping for the children of the Brown family that there is something of some sort of accountability for them, that there's something that happens with Kody for what he's done. And he was able to break so many laws for so many years and never face any legal consequences. That's just my final rant about that. And I do not support or endorse any shows that promote subjugation and violence against women. So yeah, what are your thoughts about her new boyfriend? And are you thinking Robyn and Kody are seething? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Are meant to unfold.